Hi, we're here to talk about the role of steward and being a steward and how that works for an age local 282. The expectations that are there in place as a steward really come from your local president, from the executive board. Most important is that the steward have a good relationship, working relationship with the president, with other stewards, and with your executive board members if those folks might be involved. Communication is really key, and in my mind, what I look for in people who are being a steward is someone who has a sense of fairness and justness in the workplace, and also an ability to listen carefully and to communicate with officials or administrators, managers in the workplace. When you're a steward, you can put your steward hat on and think of yourself at the same level as a manager, any manager, whether that be a commissioner or a secretary. You're on par with them, and you are entitled to have a reasonable and thoughtful conversation with the person about a conflict that might be happening in the workplace. So that's really key, a sense of fairness and ability to listen and communicate clearly and honestly with me, with the executive board members, other stewards, and certainly with your colleagues. Representing people in the grievance process is a matter of educating folks to let them know the extent and bounds of the contract, what they can expect, and if you're unclear about that, certainly call your president's office, ask to speak with a representative. Jack is a representative of NAGE who works with our union and who represents people, and we will guide you. And David, of course, is a representative who works with our members and represents them through the grievance process. And lastly, I want to say that the collective bargaining process and our contract says something really interesting in the preamble, in the very beginning. And that is that the contract is designed and the laws are in place designed to work toward a goal of harmonious working relations. That's a goal, and it's a goal that takes effort, and it's a goal that demands that people listen and also speak clearly about what their needs are and how the work can get done. So it's a worthy goal, harmonious working relations, and let me turn things over to Jack and so that he can share his ideas about being a steward.
Hello everyone. Being a shop steward is definitely an important role. It's not an easy undertaking by any means. Sometimes your bosses can respond to grievances negatively. They may view you as a nuisance more than a help. Your persistence may be viewed as being disrespectful or even insubordinate in some cases. The first and probably most important thing to do when you're talking to your members is to help them determine whether or not there has been a contract violation. A lot of people want to just complain about certain things at their job, and some of them don't amount to much of anything other than complaints. If there is a contract violation, we have to determine whether there has been any harm inflicted on a member or a group of members. Once we determine that, we have to see the best way to try to remedy the harm that has been inflicted. Hopefully we can do so without going the formal route of a grievance, but that isn't always the case. And when we have to go through a grievance, we just really have to have everybody understand that it takes a while for this process to play out. It is not something that is going to be resolved immediately by any means, and it can try on people's patience and people become frustrated, but there is a process and it can be lengthy at times. You just have to hang in with it and know that from the beginning so that you don't get frustrated beyond. A lot of times we deal with people claiming harassment or hostile environments in their workplace, and that definitely does exist out there, but a lot of times people just come up with general statements like my boss doesn't like me, or he's making me do certain things which actually are part of your job responsibilities but you don't like, but something that they are well within their means to ask you to do. The shop steward has to be able to listen to people, listen actively, but also be able to tell them when they're a little off base and don't really have much of a viable complaint. But really listening and letting the person feel like they're being listened to and their problems are taken seriously is probably most important. Understanding the contract is probably the foundation of your role, so that you can determine whether or not there are violations or not. Being able to filter out everyday complaints and differentiate between those and actual violations is instrumental in being effective in this role. You should serve as a good filter and conduit to the union rep and to your president and the union staff.
So let's turn things over to David Young, who's a representative for Local 282 and also has had about 40 years of experience on the dark side of working for the administration of the Commonwealth. But he certainly has some good insights on being a steward. So, David.
Luke, you're my son. Greg and Jack have covered most of the main points of being a union steward. I'll cover those points from my 40 years in management from the administration's point of view. As a management representative, I can tell you an ignorant, argumentative, and hostile steward was easy to deal with. You just listened to their rant, ignored them, and moved on. The position of union steward is a critical and professional position. Read and understand the collective bargaining agreement. I have a copy in my office, I have a copy in my briefcase, and I have a copy at home. So I can always have easy access to referencing the collective bargaining agreement. Research, research, and research the facts of any problem. Do not be swayed by emotion or opinions. Do not jump to conclusions. Come to management with an understanding of the problem, a proposed solution if possible, and engage management in a professional relationship. There are remedies if management does not reciprocate that professionalism. Remember, when you wear the hat of a union steward, you are equal to management, as Greg said. But this does not give you a license to undermine or interrupt operations. That's lethal to a steward. Management cannot deny your status as a steward. You are on an equal footing. However, as a steward, you are not relieved of your job responsibilities. You still have to do your job. In this regard, management needs to know when you're wearing your steward hat or your employee hat. You cannot just disappear at the workplace or abandon your job. If you are acting as a steward, let management know this. If you feel a grievance is warranted, contact the NAGE office to see if you have a case and have complied with time limits. Some do-nots. Do not walk an employee into insubordination. The rule at the workplace is do it and grieve it. Never tell an employee not to do their job or to carry out an assignment or a directive. Do not make deals that conflict with the terms of the collective bargaining agreement. That's undermining the collective bargaining agreement for all members. Do not permit management to deal directly with employees about a grievance. It's not legal for management to direct deal with employees. So don't let them cut special deals with employees where there's a grievance involved. Do not permit management, do not guarantee an employee a successful outcome of their grievance. You can never tell as you go through the process if there'll be some sort of compromise settlement or if it will be lost at any level of the procedure, including arbitration. So never guarantee a successful outcome. Do not file a grievance without contacting NAGE. Make sure you know your Weingarten rights and the employees know their Weingarten rights. If you have any questions about Weingarten rights, please contact the union office. Do not file a grievance just because the employee is dissatisfied with management or thinks management can do a better job. Make sure it constitutes some violation of the collective bargaining agreement. Encourage regular labor management meetings so that there's an open and honest dialogue on a continuing basis. Just don't be a bomb thrower. That undermines NAGE, the employee, and you. Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 150E, the Public Employee Collective Bargaining Law, provides that the union and management have a bilateral relationship. The collective bargaining agreement states it is meant to foster harmonious relations. Do not be an anti-management provocateur, no matter how incompetent management might be. Follow the process and be professional. If you're a provocateur, it will only reflect badly on you, the employee, and NAGE.
Thank you very much, David. And lastly, but no less, Richard Waring is our attorney for Local 282 here at NAGE. And Richard will have some thoughts on all of this as well from a legal perspective and from his experience as being a steward for NAGE.
Thank you, Greg. Well, Greg and Jack and David have summed up very well what the role and the responsibility of a union steward is in the workplace. I think it's important, though, to emphasize certain points that really can't be overemphasized when you're a steward. And the first point is that you really need to know the contract very, very thoroughly because it has some very specific provisions, and you won't be able to fulfill your role as a steward unless you know each and every one of the provisions. And don't guess. If you think this might be a violation of some particular article, go back and read the article and make sure you know exactly what the article says before you try to apply its terms to any particular situation. When a member comes to you in the workplace and has some kind of a complaint, the first thing you need to do is get the facts. Find out what happened. And you need to be very specific as to dates, times of day, places, who was there, who said what, who did what. And then once you have all those facts, and only then, can you figure out which contractual article applies and how, and whether or not there's even a violation. As Jack said in his remarks, sometimes you get situations where the member is just unhappy and they want to come to you and complain. Well, that's okay. That's part of the steward's job, is to be there and to listen. But you shouldn't let the member bully you into filing a grievance, and there really isn't anything to file the grievance about, because there really isn't any contract article that was violated. So it's important in those situations to be available, to listen, and to be patient with the members, because they view you as the union's representative in the workplace, and what you do or fail to do will reflect on the union. So it's important to take your role seriously, to be thorough, to be prepared when you go to a grievance hearing, and to be patient when you deal with the members, because they're coming to you not because they're happy, but because they're unhappy. So particularly in a situation like that, you have to take that fact into account. So the member will feel, after he or she is done meeting with you, that at least he or she has gotten your ear and your attention uninterfered with for however long you're meeting with them. And they feel that at least they've been heard. If you get to a point where you think there really does seem to be a violation of the contract here and a grievance really should be filed, what you need to do is be aware of the time limits for filing a grievance if it's a discipline case, and then time limits for filing a grievance if it's a contractual violation case, and they're not the same. Don't guess. Don't be shy about going back to the contract and looking up deadlines if you need to file a grievance. And as David indicated, it's always a good idea to call the union office and speak to your president or a rep before you file a grievance, so you don't run afoul of some procedural or technical requirement that you might not have been aware of. So again, to sum up, as my three predecessors on this taping have said, listen, know the contract well, get all the facts, be patient, be respectful, and stay in contact with the union office when you're working on a grievance and getting ready to file one. And I think that's about all I had on this.
Thank you, Richard. We just finished taping a complete series of the union contract, our CBA. That's now on videotape for stewards and everyone else to take a look at and to help you in your understanding of the contract. And we could probably videotape a whole course on this just from the words mentioned here in this videotape. But I think if you listen a couple of times, you'll have a really good head start representing members in your workplace and helping to ensure that that harmonious working relations are at least being sought and being worked toward from our perspective. So thank you for watching.